If your daughter looked you in the eye and said, then don't expect to stay here much longer. After I had sacrificed 15 years and nearly $500,000 to support her family, what would you do? For me, that one sentence broke everything. I was the one who had given away my pension, my savings, even my late wife's life insurance, and now I was just an ATM. I swallowed my pain in silence, until the moment when silence turned into strength came. Because behind the mask of a broken father was a man ready to reclaim his dignity. What was the surprise? I cut off their money, built a fortress of protection around my assets, and chose peace over manipulation. This is not just my betrayal. Before we go on, do not forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell. We bring you new stories every day. Hit like and let us know what city you are watching from in the comments. The dinner plates clinked softly against each other as I arranged them carefully around the polished mahogany table. March evenings in Seattle still carried winter's sharp bite, yet our dining room felt warm. Too warm, perhaps. Riven had that look again, the one where his eyes lit up like a child on Christmas morning fingers dancing across his tablet screen. Orvan perfect timing. He swiveled the device towards me, charts and graphs glowing blue against the dimmed kitchen light. I have been working on something incredible. Delira paused mid-step, a serving bowl of mashed potatoes suspended in her hands. Show him, honey. I continued setting forks, my movements automatic after 5 full years of living here. The family photos on the sideboard caught my peripheral vision. Delira's wedding, the kids' graduations, Thanksgiving dinners, 15 years of memories, 15 years of checks written, mortgages paid, emergencies covered. This is it, Orvan. Riven's voice carried that entrepreneur's confidence I had grown to recognize too well. My IT startup, we have the software platform ready. Beta testing is complete. I just need backing for the servers and office space. The tablet tilted toward me again. Numbers jumped out. $200,000 initial investment, projected returns, market analysis. My chest tightened. I know you have always supported us. Riven continued, leaning forward. This time it is different. This is not a loan. It is an investment in our future, Delira's future, the kids' future. My hands stopped moving. The last fork hovered above the final place setting. Riven. The word came out rougher than I intended. I have been helping financially for 15 years. Delira's head snapped up. Dad, this is huge for us. I am tired of being your ATM. Silence crashed over the room like a wave. The serving bowl in Delira's hands trembled slightly. Riven's tablet screen dimmed to black. Delira's face transformed. Color drained from her cheeks, then flooded back in angry red patches. Her voice, when it came, carried a coldness that made the March air outside seem tropical. Then do not expect to stay here much longer. The fork slipped from my fingers, clattering against the hardwood floor. What did you just say? You heard me. Delira set the bowl down with deliberate force. Mashed potatoes sloshed over the rim. If you are not part of this family's success, maybe you should not be part of this family at all. Riven reached for her arm. Delira, let us just... No. She shook him off. I am tired of tiptoeing around this. We have given him a home for 5 years. 5 years. And now when we need him, really need him, he turns his back on us. The room spun slightly. 22 months ago, after Maricel died, Delira had insisted I move in. Family takes care of family, she had said. Yet now those same lips were telling me to leave. Delira, please. My voice sounded foreign, older than my 75 years. I did not mean save it. She turned toward the kitchen, her heels clicking against the floor like bullets. Dinner is getting cold. I stood there staring at the unfinished place setting. The fork lay where it had fallen, catching light from the chandelier overhead. Riven cleared his throat, muttered something about checking emails and retreated to his office. My legs felt unsteady as I walked toward the stairs. Each step echoed in the sudden quiet. Behind me, I heard Delira moving around the kitchen, aggressively clattering dishes, making her anger obvious through the noise. In my bedroom, I closed the door and sat heavily on the edge of my bed. The family photos on my nightstand seemed almost to mock me now. Delira at 16, radiant in her prom dress. Delira at 33, holding newborn Calvena. Delilah last Christmas arms wrapped around Riven, both of them grinning widely at the camera. When had gratitude quietly become expectation? When had my help gradually turned into entitlement? Outside my window, Seattle's skyline twinkled in the distance. Somewhere out there, other families were having dinner. Normal dinners. Dinners where love did not come with price tags. Hours slipped by. The house had gone quiet except for muffled voices rising from downstairs. Delilah and Riven were arguing their words indistinct, yet their anger crystal clear. The digital clock on my nightstand showed 9:17 in the evening when I finally moved. The filing cabinet in the corner had been my constant companion since Marisol's death. Organization had always been my strength, a discipline learned in the military and reinforced through decades of marriage. Every receipt, every check stub, every bank statement, all carefully categorized and stored away. I pulled the bottom drawer open. The metal runners protested with a tired screech. Financial records. Delilah and Riven, I read the tab on the thickest folder. My handwriting was precise and methodical. Inside papers rustled as I spread them across my desk. Bank statements, cancelled checks, transfer receipts, a paper trail of 15 years' worth of help that had somehow transformed into obligation. The wedding came first, June 2009. The receipt from the venue, the caterer, the photographer, my signature on the bottom line, $50,000 for our princess. I told Marisol then she deserves a fairy tale. The calculator on my desk came to life with a soft beep. Numbers began accumulating. Monthly mortgage payments for $2,000 multiplied by 12 months by 5 years since they bought the house. My pen scratched across notepad paper. $252,000. Car payments for Delilah's SUV. Riven's sedan when his old one died. Insurance premiums when their credit could not secure decent rates. Each check photographed with my phone before mailing, a habit Marisol had taught me. Always keep records, Orvan. The numbers grew larger. Calvena's college tuition, $15,000 last semester alone. Theron's technical school, another $8,000. Christmas gifts, birthday celebrations, emergency repairs when their hot water heater flooded the basement. Medical bills when Riven's startup health insurance lapsed. Vacation funds for their anniversary trip to Hawaii. Delira's root canal surgery that could not wait for their dental coverage to kick in. My fingers moved across the calculator keys like a pianist playing a funeral march. Each entry brought the total higher $300,000, $350,000, $400,000. The phone on my nightstand seemed to watch as I reached for it. Wells Fargo's 24-hour customer service line answered on the second ring. This is Orvan Lari, account number. I recited the digits I had memorized decades ago. I need to cancel automatic transfers to account ending in 4739. I will be happy to help with that, Mr. Larry. May I ask the reason for cancelling these transfers? My reflection stared back from the darkened window. Grey hair, tired eyes, but something new in the set of my jaw. I am tired of being taken for granted. Sir, cancel the transfers. 20 minutes later, I hung up the phone and returned slowly to my calculations. The final tally made my breath catch in disbelief. $487,000. Nearly $500,000 over 15 long years. Marisol's life insurance money, my military pension, our savings from 40 years of careful living, all of it flowing steadily to a daughter who thought I owed her endlessly more. The power of attorney documents lay at the very bottom of the folder, Delira's name in neat legal print, giving her access to my accounts for convenience and supposed emergency purposes. My signature from 3 years ago, when recovering from knee surgery, had made bank visits difficult, stared back at me. I fed the papers through my desk shredder, watching legal authority transform into thin confetti strips. For the first time in hours, I allowed myself a smile. Tomorrow would bring inevitable changes. Tonight, though, I would sleep better than I had in many months. My laptop screen glowed to life. Seattle apartment rentals downtown, high-rises with city views, quiet neighborhoods near bus lines. One-bedroom places where the only family obligations would finally be to myself. The house around me creaked and settled, but I barely heard it. I was already planning my escape. Friday morning sunlight streamed through the windows of the downtown Seattle apartment, casting geometric shadows across the hardwood floors. Valerie Finch, the realtor, gestured toward the kitchen with professional enthusiasm. Perfect for one person, Mr. Larry. Walking distance to Pike Place Market, bus routes to everywhere you would want to go. I nodded, barely listening to her well-rehearsed pitch. The space felt right. Clean, quiet. Mine. The park across the street has benches where residents like to read. She pointed through the living room window. Very peaceful after years of chaos. I will take it. Valerie paused mid-sentence, her smile faltering slightly. Do not you want to see the bedroom, the bathroom? We have not discussed lease terms, or I need peace more than square footage. I pulled out my checkbook. First month's rent and the security deposit. 2 hours later, I sat in my truck outside the Bellevue house. Delira's car was gone. Her Friday shift at the cafe would not end until 3 o'clock. Riven's sedan was missing too, probably at his co-working space, chasing another grand idea. The house key felt heavier than usual as I unlocked the front door. Moving through rooms I'd called home for 5 years, I made swift decisions. The photo albums from my marriage, mine. My military service medals from the bedroom dresser, mine. The leather recliner Marisol had bought me for my 70th birthday, theirs. They had grown accustomed to its presence. The piano in the living room had been Marisol's pride. Delira had claimed it after the funeral, said it would be perfect for when Calvena brought her children around someday. Let her keep those dreams. The box moving service arrived at noon with 3 workers and a truck that barely fit in the driveway. The crew leader, a young man with gentle eyes, approached carefully. Mr. Larray, we have you down for a 1-bedroom move. Senior discount applied. That is right. I handed him a handwritten list. Everything marked with blue tape goes. Everything else stays. What about the piano, sir? It is a beautiful piece. I watched through the window as they loaded my desk, my books, my carefully packed memories. Leave it. It belongs to someone else now. The hardest part was Marisol's jewelry box. Delira had insisted I keep it, said maybe someday I would want to give pieces to Calvena or future granddaughters-in-law. But those conversations would happen on my terms now, if they happened at all. The envelope I left on the kitchen table was plain white. No Aryan inside a single sheet of paper with 2 measured paragraphs. Delira and Riven, I have moved out. The keys are on the counter. You will find I have cancelled my financial support. You wanted independence from my expectations. I am giving you independence from my assistance. Do not contact me until you are ready to apologize. My new address will remain private until then. Orvan. My phone rang as I was signing paperwork in my new apartment. Delira's name appeared on the caller ID. Dad, what is this? Your stuff is gone. There is a note. I moved out. You cannot just leave. This is your home. Riven's voice joined the call through speakerphone. Orvan, we can work this out. The startup thing. We can find other investors. You told me not to expect to stay much longer. My voice stayed level, steady, calm. I took your advice. I was angry. I did not mean, do not come looking for me. Do not call again until you are ready to have a real conversation about respect. I ended the call and powered off the phone. Through my new apartment window, Seattle's evening lights began twinkling on. Tomorrow I would explore my new neighborhood, find a good coffee shop, maybe even visit the library. Tonight, though, I would order pizza and eat it at my own pace in my own space with no one expecting anything from me except the tips for delivery. The revolving doors of First National Bank spun me into a world of marble floors and hushed conversations. Monday morning in downtown Seattle carried the weight of serious business, and I felt ready for it. My appointment with Eldon Ray was scheduled for 9:30, but I had arrived early. Preparation had become my new religion, the quiet discipline of someone building his own chapter in the kind of revenge true story people only whispered about in hushed tones, the kind that later would fit alongside the best revenge stories, or even those Reddit revenge stories shared online. Mr. Larry. Eldon stood from behind his mahogany desk, extending a firm handshake. 20 years younger than me, probably, but his grey suit commanded respect. I have your account information pulled up. We settled into his office overlooking Pike Street. Through floor-to-ceiling windows, I watched commuters hurrying to their responsibilities while I prepared to shed mine. You want to cancel the automatic transfer of $4,200 monthly? His eyebrows lifted slightly. That has been running for 5 years without interruption. Yes, I pulled out the folder I had organized over the weekend, and I would like to review exactly how much has been transferred in total. Eldon typed commands into his computer with practiced efficiency. Numbers cascaded across his monitor. His expression grew more serious as the tally climbed. Jesus, he caught himself. Excuse me, the total is $487,000 over 15 years. That includes the mortgage payments, but also smaller transfers, emergency funds, tuition payments. Let them pay for their own house. The finality in my voice seemed to surprise him. He printed the statement summary, the pages warm from the laser printer. Each line item represented another piece of my independence I had traded for family harmony. By noon, I was sitting across from Halston Merrick in his law office 3 blocks away. His secretary had squeezed me in after I mentioned asset protection and estate planning in the same breath. Lawyers always appreciated urgency when it came with billable hours. Asset protection at your age is wise. Halston Merrick spread documents across his conference table like a general carefully planning a battle strategy. Irrevocable trusts, homestead exemptions, offshore considerations if they became necessary. I want to protect what is left from any claims my daughter might make. Halston's pen paused just above his legal pad. Family disputes can get complicated. The best defense is proper structure put in place before problems arise. We spent 2 solid hours crafting barriers around my remaining nest egg. Nevada Asset Protection Trusts, beneficiary designations, executive appointments. Calvena's name appeared throughout the paperwork as primary beneficiary. She had always been honest with me, never demanding, never manipulating. Everything goes to Calvena through the trust, Halston explained, as I signed document after document. Your daughter has no legal claim to these assets once the trust is established. The notary public arrived promptly at 3 o'clock. A stern woman who verified signatures with military precision. Each stamp felt like another lock clicking into place. My financial fortress was becoming impregnable. Walking back to my apartment, I carried a leather portfolio filled with certified copies. The weight of it felt lighter than the endless mortgage payments I'd been shouldering for years. My phone buzzed as I climbed the stairs to my unit. A text message from an unknown number. Dad, it is Riven. We need to talk. Coming by tonight at 7. I deleted the message without replying. Let him come. I had legal documents now, and something even more valuable, the knowledge that I could say no without consequences that mattered anymore. The afternoon sun slanted through my living room windows as I filed the trust papers neatly in my new cabinet. Everything organized, everything protected, everything finally mine to control. My doorbell would ring soon enough. 7 o'clock arrived with mathematical precision, followed by the chime echo of my doorbell. Through the peephole, Riven's face appeared distorted but recognizable. His expression was carefully arranged into apologetic lines. A bouquet of yellow roses occupied his left hand, a store-bought peace offering. Orvan. He stepped inside without invitation, scanning my sparse apartment with poorly concealed disappointment. Nice place, very minimalist. I accepted the flowers with neutral politeness, setting them down on the kitchen counter without seeking a vase. Did Delilah send you? She was upset after what happened Wednesday. Riven settled onto my second-hand couch, uninvited, crossing his legs with practiced confidence. You know how emotional she gets. She did not mean what she said about you leaving. Sit down, Riven. I chose the armchair opposite him, maintaining distance. When did you last remember my birthday? His smile faltered. What? My birthday? When did you last remember it without Delilah reminding you? Riven's hands gestured vaguely, entrepreneur energy-seeking direction. That is not really, we are talking about important family matters here. February 14th. I leaned back, watching his face process the information. Same day as Valentine's Day. Hard to forget, you would think, but you have for 12 years running. Orvan, that is different. We are discussing the family's financial future. I stood moving to the kitchen window that overlooked the street. Riven's BMW sat parked illegally in a loading zone, hazard lights blinking like an emergency that existed only in his mind. Hospital visit last spring, I said, keeping my voice conversational. Knee replacement surgery, 3 days in recovery. I was busy with the quarterly reports. Delilah came once, brought flowers from the gift shop downstairs. You sent a card. Riven shifted forward, his tone growing sharper. What does this have to do with my business proposal? I am offering you an investment opportunity, not asking for charity. $200,000 to someone who forgets my existence unless he needs money. I turned from the window. That is not investment, Riven. That is delusion. His careful composure finally cracked. Fine. You want honesty? Delilah and I have been carrying this family for years, hosting dinners, managing your social life, giving you purpose after Maricel died. You owe us. My purpose now is peace without your constant demands. Riven stood abruptly, pacing to my small dining table in back. You cannot just abandon us. We have plans, commitments, people depending on us. Find another ATM. You will regret this. His voice rose to a level that probably violated my lease agreement. When this opportunity passes you by, when you are sitting here alone while we are successful, I am already sitting here alone. The difference is, I chose it. Riven grabbed his jacket from the couch arm, his movements sharp with visible frustration. This is not over, Orvan. Family does not just disappear because you are having some kind of senior moment. He slammed my door hard enough to rattle the frame. Through my window, I watched him storm toward his BMW, yanking his phone from his pocket before he even reached the driver's door. The roses he had brought sat abandoned on my counter, still wrapped in plastic from whatever grocery store he had chosen for maximum convenience and minimum thought. I was disposing of them in my trash can when headlights swept across my window. A silver sedan pulled up behind Riven's departed BMW Delira's car. She sat behind the wheel for several minutes, phone pressed to her ear, probably receiving Riven's debriefing on his failed mission. If you were in my shoes, would you forgive family who only show up when they want something, or would you set boundaries for peace? Comment number 1. If you choose peace over manipulation. Tomorrow would bring her attempt. Tonight, though, I would heat up leftover pizza and watch the news in peace. Friday afternoon brought Delilah to my doorstep with theatrical precision. I had been expecting her visit since Tuesday night when she had driven past my building twice in reconnaissance missions I had observed from my kitchen window. Dad? She stood outside my door, holding a white pastry box, her smile bright as stage lighting. I brought your favorite apple pie from Morrison's Bakery. The scent of cinnamon and false nostalgia followed her into my apartment. She dressed carefully. Soft blue sweater, minimal makeup, the outfit she wore when seeking sympathy rather than commanding attention. Just like Mum used to make, she continued, placing the box ceremoniously on my counter. Remember how she would bake one every Sunday after church? I remembered Maricel burning more pies than she ever successfully completed, but saying so would derail Delira's prepared script. Coffee. That would be lovely. We moved through the motions of domestic normality, measuring grounds, filling the machine, arranging plates we both knew would remain unused. Delilah perched on my couch with studied casualness, her purse positioned for easy access to tissues. I have been thinking about when you taught me to ride my bicycle. Her voice carried wistful undertones. You ran alongside me for 3 blocks, even though your back was bothering you. That was 40 years ago. You were always there for me, school plays, graduation, my wedding day. Her eyes glistened on cue. You have been the most supportive father any girl could ask for. The coffee machine finished brewing with mechanical indifference. I filled 2 cups, adding cream to hers, the way she had preferred since childhood muscle memory from decades of caretaking. When did you last visit me in the hospital after my surgery? Delira's performance paused. Dad, I was overwhelmed with work. The kids were having problems. Riven came once. You sent flowers. That is not fair. You know how busy things get. Calvena drove up from Tacoma twice that week. I settled into my armchair, maintaining unwavering eye contact. Theron called every single day to check on me. Delira's lower lip trembled with practiced vulnerability. Are you punishing me for being human, for having responsibilities? I am choosing independence over obligation. The tears started then, genuine enough despite their all-too-convenient timing. We will lose the house without your help. The children will be homeless. Riven's business opportunity could save us, but only if we act quickly. Maybe it is time to find full-time work instead of part-time. Her crying stopped abruptly, replaced by sharp indignation. I work plenty managing a household, supporting Riven's career, raising children. Children, Calvena is 20, Theron is 22. What children need raising? You have become cruel. Delilah reached for her purse, retrieving tissues with mechanical precision. Mom would be heartbroken seeing what you have become. This is not the father who raised me. The father who raised you is tired of being your financial safety net. She stood with wounded dignity, leaving the unopened pie box on my counter like evidence of my supposed heartlessness. Fine, but when you are sitting here alone, wondering why your family does not visit anymore, remember this conversation. After she left, I opened the pastry box. The pie looked perfect. Golden crust decorative vents, professional presentation, store-bought sentiment in a homemade disguise. My phone chimed with a text message 20 minutes later. Therin's name on the screen. Grandpa, can I come see you Sunday? Mom and Dad are acting weird. I smiled, typing back, yes, bring your appetite. At least one family member seemed interested in conversation rather than commerce. Sunday afternoon brought Therin to my door with the casual confidence of someone who had never been told no. He still had the key I had given him years ago, but chose to knock a small courtesy that surprised me. Hey, Grandpa. He slouched through my doorway, surveying my apartment with barely concealed disappointment. Mom said you moved somewhere tiny. His jeans hung low, work boots, untied flannel shirt wrinkled from sleeping in it. 22 years old and still dressing like a teenager who had given up trying. Coffee. I moved toward the kitchen, needing activity to process his sudden presence. Sure. Therin flopped onto my couch without invitation, legs sprawling across cushions I'd arranged carefully that morning. Nice place, I guess. Very clean. The coffee maker gurgled to life while I studied his reflection in the kitchen window. Same stubborn jawline as his mother, same restless energy as his father, but Marisol's eyes gentle brown with flecks of gold. So, Grandpa, I need a favor. His voice carried the practiced casualness of someone who had rehearsed this conversation. $3,000. Credit card situation got a little out of hand. I poured 2 cups, adding cream to his the way Marisol used to, thinking how every choice I made now was shaping the outline of a quiet revenge true story that had begun the moment I finally said no. When are you planning to pay it back? You do not even have a job. I will find work soon. Maybe something with cars. You know I am good with engines. Garrick Rudell is looking for a mechanic's assistant. I retrieved the business card from my wallet, where it had waited patiently for 3 weeks for exactly this moment. $15 an hour, full benefits after 90 days. Therin's face scrunched into familiar patterns of resistance. Grandpa, I do not want to work for some random guy. I need quick cash to clear my debts. Then I will figure out long-term stuff. The debt accumulated how? Just normal things. Gas, food, clothes. Sometimes I helped friends out. Bars, video games, concert tickets. His posture shifted, shoulders hunching defensively. You have become cheap. You always used to help before. Remember when I needed money for technical school? I remember paying $8,000 for welding certification you never completed. Therin stood abruptly, pacing to my window and back again. That is different. I had other opportunities come up. Like what? Sleeping until noon, playing online games until 3 o'clock in the morning. You do not understand how hard it is for my generation. Everything costs more. Jobs pay nothing. This is for your benefit. I held out Garrick's card. Real skills, steady income, pride and accomplishment. He slapped the card away, sending it fluttering to my kitchen floor. I do not need lectures about pride. I need $3,000. No. The word hung between us like a door slamming shut. Therin stared at me with an expression I had never seen before, genuine shock that his grandfather might actually refuse him anything. Fine. He stomped toward my door, turning back with wounded fury. Do not expect me to visit any more. Do not expect me to care when you are old and lonely. I am already old, Therin, and I am learning to prefer lonely over used. He slammed the door hard enough to rattle my neighbor's wind chimes. Through my window, I watched him stomp down the sidewalk phone, already pressed to his ear, probably calling Delilah to report his failed mission. My phone rang before Therin disappeared around the corner. Calvena's name lit up the display. I stared at the screen finger hovering over the answer button, wondering what crisis would unfold next. Grandpa. Calvena's voice carried exhaustion that seemed far too heavy for 20 years. I am glad you picked up. It is chaos at home. Mom is screaming that everything is your fault. I settled into my armchair, watching Theron's distant figure vanish around the corner. What does Riven say about his wonderful business plan? He sold his BMW yesterday. Says the bank is threatening to take the house if they miss another mortgage payment. The satisfaction that bloomed in my chest felt warm and justified. 15 years of automatic transfers, and they could not last 2 weeks without my support. Maybe it is time for them to grow up, Calvena. Mom took extra shifts at the cafe. She's working 60 hours a week, coming home exhausted and angry. They are fighting constantly about money. Wednesday morning found me walking through Myrtle Edwards Park's cell phone buzzing with ignored calls from Delilah. The March sunshine felt warmer than it had in months. Or maybe freedom simply changed how weather felt against my skin. My routine had become blissfully predictable. Coffee at 7, newspaper until 8. Park walk by 9:30. No family emergencies interrupting breakfast. No guilt-laden phone calls during my afternoon reading time. The homeless man who fed pigeons near the sculpture garden nodded knowingly as I passed. We had developed an unspoken understanding. Two men who had chosen solitude over complicated relationships. "You look happier these days," he observed, scattering breadcrumbs to a growing crowd of birds. "Learning to live for myself. Smart man, family can drain you dry if you let them." At home, 17 text messages waited on my phone. Delira's desperation escalating through the day. "Dad, please call. We can work this out. The bank wants $8,400 immediately or they will start foreclosure. Riven is applying for loans, but his credit is terrible. I'm working double shifts. My feet are bleeding. The neighbors are talking about us. It is humiliating. You are destroying our family over money. Please, just this once, help us catch up." I deleted them without responding, then checked my bank balance online. My accounts showed healthy numbers protected by legal documents Delilah could not touch. Holston Merrick had built an impressive fortress around my remaining assets. Calvena called again at dinner time while I was enjoying leftover soup, a luxury I had almost forgotten, eating meals that actually stayed warm until I finished them. "Mom collapsed at work today. Exhaustion," they said. "She is okay, but..." Calvena's voice cracked. "Grandpa, I understand why you are angry, but seeing her like this..." "Your mother chose this path, Calvena. I offered reasonable boundaries. She chose manipulation instead." Theron came by today asking for money for rent. Mom screamed at him for 30 minutes about responsibility. Good. Maybe she is learning. Through my kitchen window, downtown, Seattle sparkled with evening lights. Somewhere out there, my daughter was working herself to exhaustion, trying to maintain a lifestyle my money had always made possible. My son-in-law was discovering that charm could not pay mortgages. My grandson was facing consequences for the first time in his adult life. I should have felt guilty. Instead, I felt liberated. My evening routine continued undisturbed. News at 7, reading until 9 o'clock, early bedtime without family drama keeping me awake. The apartment that Delilah had mocked as tiny felt perfectly sized for a man who had spent 5 years accommodating other people's needs in almost every decision. Around 10 at night, movement outside caught my attention. Through my living room window, I could see figures gathering near the building entrance. Riven's silhouette was unmistakable, gesturing emphatically to a group of people I could not identify in the streetlight shadows. They seemed to be organizing themselves, preparing for something. The way they moved suggested planning coordination purpose. I turned off my lights and watched quietly from the darkness, counting heads. 5 people, maybe 6 more than just Riven and Delilah this time. The group approached my building with military precision. Riven in the lead, followed by Delilah Theron and 2 older figures I recognized as Rothan and Verlena Braxley. Calvena trailed behind them, her reluctance visible even from my 4th floor window. I had met the Braxleys maybe 6 times in 15 years. Rothan, a retired factory worker who believed hard work solved everything except his son's chronic irresponsibility. Verlena, whose manipulative skills had clearly been inherited by her offspring. They disappeared into my building's lobby. 60 seconds later, aggressive knocking rattled my door. "Orvan, open up. We need to talk." Rothan's voice carried the authority of someone accustomed to being obeyed. I peered through my peephole at 6 faces arranged in what looked like an intervention formation. Riven held flowers again. Delira clutched tissues. Theron sulked near the back. The Braxleys flanked them like backup singers in a very uncomfortable musical. "Orvin, you are destroying our family." Rothan pounded again when I did not respond. "Riven is a good man trying to build something." I opened the door, but maintained position in the threshold, controlling access to my space. "Your son used me as an ATM for 15 years. Family duty." Velina pushed forward, her voice shrill with practiced indignation. "You should be helping young people get established." "I helped establish a pattern of dependency. I am correcting that now." The hallway felt cramped with 6 adults crowding my doorway. Riven gestured toward my apartment with his free hand. "Can we come in? This is too important for hallway conversations." "No." Delira stepped closer. Mascara already smudged from strategic tears. "Dad, I know you are upset, but this has gone too far. We could lose everything." "Then maybe you should have thought about that before telling me not to expect to stay much longer." I was angry. "You meant it." I looked at each face in turn. "You all meant it. I was convenient when you needed money, disposable when you did not." Rothan's face reddened with righteous anger. "You are being selfish. At your age, you should be thinking about legacy, about helping the next generation. My legacy will be teaching responsibility instead of enabling failure." Theron finally spoke from the back of the group. "Grandpa, you are being mean. You never used to be like this. Leave Grandpa alone. You never cared about him." Calvena's voice cut through the adult arguments with surprising strength. "When did any of you visit him in the hospital? When did you remember his birthday without being reminded?" Velina turned on Calvena with vicious sweetness. "Young lady adults are talking. You do not understand the complexities. I understand that you are all bullying an old man because he will not give you money anymore." The hallway erupted in overlapping voices. Riven demanding respect for his parents, Delira sobbing about homelessness, Rothan lecturing about family obligations, Velina guilt-tripping about ungrateful children, Theron whining about fairness. Only Calvena remained quiet, standing slightly apart from the others, watching me with eyes that held more wisdom than her years should have allowed. "Enough!" My voice cut through their chaos like a blade. I gave Delira and Riven $487,000 over 15 years. Weddings, mortgages, emergencies, opportunities. In return, I got forgotten birthdays, ignored hospital stays, and demands for more. "That is what family does," Rothan sputtered. "You help each other." "Help flows both directions. This was exploitation." I stepped back into my apartment, hand on the door. "Do not contact me again until you are ready to apologize. Calvena, you are always welcome. The rest of you learn to solve your own problems." The door closed with decisive finality. Through the wood, I could hear continued arguing. Riven's parents berating Delira crying, Theron complaining, Calvena defending me against multiple adult voices. I walked to my kitchen window and waited. 20 minutes later, they emerged onto the sidewalk below, still arguing amongst themselves. Calvena broke away from the group, looking up at my building. Even from 4 floors up, I could see her wave. The others climbed into Rothan's old pickup truck and drove away. Calvena stood alone on the sidewalk for another minute before walking toward the bus stop. My apartment felt peaceful again. The silence was no longer empty. It was chosen. "We are creating an irrevocable trust with your granddaughter as sole beneficiary," Holston Merrick explained, spreading documents across his mahogany conference table. April's sunshine streamed through his downtown office windows, illuminating legal protections I should have established decades ago. Nevada Asset Protection Trust provides additional creditor shielding. He continued, pointing to specific clauses. Even if your daughter attempts legal action, these assets remain untouchable. I signed each document with steady, deliberate hands. The months since March had taught me the true value of permanent barriers against manipulation. No more power of attorney arrangements, no more family emergency access to my accounts. "International diversification for your pension," Holston Merrick suggested. "Cayman Islands banking offers legitimate privacy protection." By noon, I had built financial walls higher than any guilt trip could ever scale. The wire transfers to offshore accounts felt like carefully designed insurance policies against future emotional blackmail. House hunting with Valerie Finch resumed that afternoon. We drove through quiet Kirkland neighborhoods where silence costs more than downtown chaos. The cottage on Lake Washington spoke to me immediately. 2 bedrooms, a wide deck overlooking the water garden space for the vegetables Maricel had always wanted to grow. Previous owner was also a veteran Valerie mentioned as we walked the property. Left it to his daughter, but she lives in California, wants a quick sale to someone who will appreciate it. I made an offer that afternoon. Full asking price, cash down, no inspection contingencies. The seller accepted within hours. Evening brought me to the Batau Veterans Center for their weekly community dinner. Retirement had finally given me time for activities I had neglected during my long ATM years. The conversations flowed easily among men who understood service sacrifice and the challenge of starting over. "You look happier these days, Orvan," commented Garrick Rudell, whose garage job Theron had once refused. "Family situation resolved." "I resolved myself out of it." "Smart man. Family can bleed you dry if you are not careful." Leora Kendrill was serving dessert when our eyes met across the dining room. Elegant silver hair, warm brown eyes behind tasteful glasses. The kind of smile that suggested wisdom earned through experience rather than naivety preserved through luck. "Haven't seen you here before," she said, offering apple pie from a tray of homemade desserts. "Recently started attending. Orvan Larre." "Leora Kendrill. I volunteer here twice a week. Lost my husband 5 years ago. Heart attack. Teaching kept me busy, but retirement needs structure." We talked until the janitor started stacking chairs. Leora had taught 4th grade for 37 years, raised 2 children who lived responsibly across the country, and maintained her own home through competent independence rather than constant family dependence. "Perhaps we could continue this conversation over coffee sometime," I asked as she gathered serving platters. "I would like that very much." The cottage purchase finalized within 3 weeks. I moved from the downtown apartment to the lakeside sanctuary with the efficiency of someone who had learned to travel light. The deck became my morning coffee destination, Lake Washington, my evening meditation. Leora visited the second Saturday after I had settled in, bringing homemade cookies and genuine interest in my new space. We sat on the deck watching sailboats navigate the lake while discussing books, travel dreams, and the relief of building life around choice rather than obligation. "Independence at our age feels revolutionary," she observed, accepting a second cup of coffee. "I spent 15 years forgetting what it felt like." The phone rang as sunset painted the lake in copper tones. Calvena's name on the display brought my first moment of family-related tension in weeks. "Grandpa, you are not going to believe what has happened." Calvena's voice carried exhaustion mixed with vindication as Leora and I prepared salmon on the cottage deck. August evening light danced across Lake Washington, turning our barbecue into a golden hour celebration of life's simpler pleasures. "Tell me," I said, settling into the deck chair that had become my preferred spot for family phone calls. "Mom and Dad are divorcing. She filed papers last week. Says she finally realized Dad's business ideas were always fantasies." Leora raised an eyebrow but continued seasoning vegetables with the quiet competence I had grown to appreciate over our 4 months together. She understood family complexity without ever needing detailed explanations. "I am sorry to hear about the divorce, Calvena, but everyone must face the consequences of their decisions. Mom is working 70 hours a week between 2 jobs. Dad moved back in with Grandma Valina. His startup completely collapsed. Turns out he was terrible with money management." The irony was not lost on me. Riven, who had once demanded my investment in his so-called business acumen, could not manage the finances he already had. Delira, who had threatened to kick me out for refusing support, was discovering what real financial independence truly required. "Theron called me yesterday," Calvena continued. "He wanted your phone number." I tensed slightly. "What did he say?" "He has been working at Garrick's garage for 2 months now, making steady money learning real skills. Says he wants to apologize and thank you." Leora smiled at this news, squeezing my shoulder gently. She had heard the story of Theron's angry departure and understood the tough love philosophy behind my refusal to enable him. The phone rang again 20 minutes later. Theron's name appeared on the display. "Grandpa, I hope you do not hang up." "I am listening," I wanted to say thank you, and I am sorry for calling you mean. His voice carried a maturity I had not heard before. Garrick has been teaching me engine rebuilds. I'm earning enough to get my own apartment next month. That is excellent news, Theron. I understand now why you would not give me the money. I would have wasted it and learned nothing. Garrick says I have natural talent, but talent needs work ethic. After the call ended, Leora and I sat watching the lake while Salmon finished cooking. A blue heron stood motionless at the water's edge, demonstrating the patience I had finally learned myself. You saved that boy from becoming like his father, Leora observed. Tough love is still love. We had been planning a September trip to Usaide, my first vacation in 5 years that would not be interrupted by family emergencies. Leora had mapped hiking trails appropriate for our ages, researched lodge accommodations, arranged for her neighbor to water the plants. The anticipation felt foreign and wonderful. Delira texted me again today. I mentioned as we moved food inside, asking if we could talk. Are you ready for that conversation? I am ready to maintain my boundaries regardless of what she says. Leora's kitchen skills complemented my grilling abilities. We had fallen into domestic routines that felt natural rather than obligatory. She maintained her own home 3 miles away, but stayed over frequently, contributing groceries, cooking expertise, and the kind of companionship that enhanced solitude rather than demanding it. The Veteran Center had become our regular Thursday evening activity. Leora's teaching background helped her connect with younger veterans struggling with civilian transitions, while my experience provided perspective on long-term adjustment strategies. You know, Leora said as we cleaned dishes together, I never thought I would find partnership again at my age. Neither did I, especially not after learning how one-sided my family relationships had become. Through the kitchen window, I could see headlights turning into my driveway. The car looked familiar, Delira's silver sedan, the one I had helped her purchase 3 years ago. Speaking of family relationships, Leora said quietly, following my gaze. Thanksgiving morning found Leora and me preparing dinner for our chosen family. Calvena arriving from Tacoma at 2, Theron bringing homemade rolls from his new apartment at 3. The cottage kitchen smelled of turkey stuffing and the kind of deep contentment that comes from relationships built on mutual respect rather than financial obligation. Calvena texted that she is bringing pumpkin pie. Leora announced, checking the turkey's progress with the competence of someone who had orchestrated holiday meals for decades. Theron is excited to show us pictures of his apartment. I replied, setting the dining table with my grandmother's china pieces that had survived wars, moves, and family upheavals to finally find purpose in celebration rather than obligation. The doorbell interrupted our preparations with aggressive urgency. Through the peephole, Delira's face appeared drawn, desperate, aged far beyond her 48 years. She wore clothes I recognized from 2 years ago, carried herself with the defeated posture of someone who had run completely out of options. Dad, please open the door. I need to talk to you. Leora appeared beside me, offering silent support without interfering. 4 months of partnership had taught us how to handle crisis together while still respecting each other's family boundaries. I opened the door but remained in the threshold. Hello, Delira. Dad, I lost the apartment. Landlord evicted me last week. I'm staying at a motel, but I cannot afford it much longer. Her voice carried desperation I had never heard before, the sound of someone discovering that pride could not pay rent, that manipulation could not substitute for stability. I'm sorry to hear about your housing situation. Please, one last time, help me, just enough for first month's rent and security deposit. $5,000. I promise I will pay it back. I love you, Delira, but help without responsibility will never save you. She pushed past me into the cottage living room, surveying the comfortable furniture, the lake view, the evidence of financial security she had once taken for granted. This is what you chose over your own daughter, a nice house while I am homeless. I chose self-respect over enabling destructive patterns. Leora stepped forward with quiet authority. Delira, your father has tried helping for 15 years. Perhaps it is time to try helping yourself. Who are you to judge our family? Delira's voice rose to the level that had once intimidated me into compliance. I am someone who learned independence after my husband died. Your father is teaching you the same lesson. Dad, this is cruel. Mom would not approve of this treatment. The mention of Marisol hit like a physical blow, but I had prepared for this kind of manipulation. Your mother would want you to be strong, independent, capable of supporting yourself. She would be heartbroken seeing what dependency has done to you. Delira collapsed into tears. Genuine this time, not performed for effect. I do not know how to do this alone. I have never had to. You are 48 years old, Delira. It is time to learn. Calvena arrived as Delira was leaving, the two passing in the driveway with barely acknowledged recognition. Calvena entered carrying pumpkin pie and wearing the expression of someone who had witnessed family drama from a distance. Mom asked me to convince you to help her, Calvena said, setting the pie on the kitchen counter. What did you tell her? That you had already helped more than enough, that maybe losing everything would teach her what working people already know. Theron arrived an hour later with warm dinner rolls and pictures of his one-bedroom apartment. His face showed the satisfaction of someone earning his own security, his own pride, his own future. Grandpa, I saw Mum leaving as I drove up. She looked upset. Your mother is learning hard lessons about responsibility. Good, Leora said firmly. Real love sometimes requires letting people face consequences. We gathered around the dining table, Orvin, Leora, Calvena, and Theron, 4 people who had chosen to build relationships grounded on mutual respect rather than financial transaction. The turkey was perfectly cooked. The conversation flowed naturally, and the gratitude we shared felt genuine rather than obligatory. My phone rang during dessert. Delira's name appeared on the display. I looked at the phone, then at Leora, Calvena, and Theron seated warmly around my table, people who valued my presence, not my bank account. People who contributed to conversations rather than demanding solutions to problems of their own making. I turned the phone off and set it aside. More pie. Anyone? I asked with a smile. Outside the cottage windows, Lake Washington reflected the sunset in perfect stillness. Inside, chosen family gathered around a table built on foundation stones of respect, independence, and love that enhanced rather than drained. The silence felt whole, not empty. It was a silence of peace, deliberately chosen. As I sat there, I realized my story might sound like some revenge audio story. But to me, it was more than that. It was not revenge at all. It was reclamation. Reclaiming dignity, boundaries, and the quiet power of saying no when saying yes would have destroyed me. I learned that love is not measured by money spent, but by presence, honesty, and responsibility. And I understood that sometimes the hardest act of love is refusing to enable the people we care about. By letting them stumble, we may finally give them the chance to rise. If you were in my place, what would you have done? Would you give in one more time? Or would you protect your peace the way I did? Share your thoughts and personal experiences in the comments below. I would truly love to hear them. If this story resonated with you, please remember to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Do not forget to turn on the notification bell so you never miss the new stories we bring here. And check out the recommended video on your screen. This is another story I am deeply proud of, and I believe you will find it just as meaningful. Thank you so much for your support. I will see you again in the next story.